Agribusiness brought to you by SureCrop, quality liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
Dan, thanks for joining us this morning. I appreciate you taking the time to visit with us.
My pleasure.
Meat exports and the Kansas soybean farmer, do they go hand in hand?
Without a doubt, yes. One of the greatest ways for the soybean producer to add value is to do it in the form of meat products, beef and pork. And the exports of beef and pork have been on fire. We had a record year in 2011. On the beef side, it was $5.4 billion in U.S. beef was exported around the world. And on the pork side, it was $6.1 billion in U.S. Pork exported around the world. So what we're seeing is increasing demand for U.S. beef and pork. Several things are driving that. One is generic population growth. We're a 7 billion person world today, and 96% of those people live outside the U.S. That's issue number one. And the exciting thing is, you look at the global growth in population, depending which economist you listen to, we're going to be somewhere upwards of 9 billion people as soon as 2040. So you're going to have a lot of new mouths to feed. That's one aspect. The other one that's probably even more exciting is the world is getting wealthier. The GDP growth rates in a lot of these foreign countries are amazing. You look at a place like Panama, 11% GDP growth annually. Qatar in the Middle East, 18% GDP growth. So my point is that these economies are emerging, and their demand for higher levels of food, higher levels of protein are increasing all the time, and a lot of these places can afford to pay more money for it.
How does the checkoff work? I mean, for the Kansas farmer, is there value in the checkoff? You know, people get their check and look at it and it's a little bit short and they know that money is going to the checkoff. How does that impact them? Yeah,
well, I think USMEF is a good example of how it impacts them favorably. You're right, they get the check, there's a little bit missing. Where does that go? Well, USMEF checkoff from the grain groups and the meat groups, beef and pork, are a vital part of our funding. And we had a return on investment study done by Cornell University last year that looked at USMEF's programs from 1995 to 2010, so a 15-year period. And their conclusion, and they're experts in evaluating checkoff programs, they came back and said that for every dollar spent by the beef side, that it returned almost $4 to the producer. And on the pork side, it was even higher, closer to $7.50 on the pork side from that checkoff investment. So, I mean, it's a little hard to quantify sometimes, but that was a very, I mean, that's what this came back with, and I think it's just a real you know, affirmation of that these checkoff programs do bring value back to the producer.
We look at the Kansas soybean farmer, and their biggest customer is animal production. So it kind of does go hand in hand for the two of them.
Without a doubt, yep. I think it goes hand in hand, and it's another way to diversify the value chain for the soybean producer as well as the corn folks as well. And I think that we've got a very good partnership with a lot of the Kansas groups, soybeans at the top of the list. And the folks that are involved in this, the volunteer leadership, they're starting to really grasp the value potential. Not only what's happened so far, and what's happened so far is exciting, we're setting records, but it's looking at the future. The future to feed the world is mind-boggling when you sit down and think about it. A place as simple, you know, like China, 1.4 billion people in China, and they're not anywhere close to self-sufficient in beef production. And that's an opportunity going forward, just that one country.